Good morning. So I know it's been a very long time, but there's not really been too much progress happening with the GTR, and I'm basically just going to explain what's been going on. So you guys remember I had that rust spot back here in the back. I'm actually going to put the car on stands right now and get into it. But basically what it is I didn't want to keep going with the car with, that massive rust spot there. So I started going around and, I'm sitting here talking to all these different repairers, trying to get quotes and figure out what it's going to take to fix the rust spot on the rail. And the conclusion that I was getting was that, this was going to be a much bigger job than I anticipated, because in order to do it properly, the repair has basically got to do this thing where they put it on a car aligner. I then had the flip side of that, where I had a few guys that were telling me, we'll just cut and box the rail. And I'm like, at the time, not really knowing, I'm like, okay, cool. If that repairs it, that repairs it. But the more I dug into it, it became a safety concern, because if I were to ever get rear-ended in the car, and that rail obviously being compromised, fixing it by cutting and boxing it, that compromises the safety of the rail. That not only puts me at greater risk, that puts that repair shop at risk if the insurance companies decided to investigate the crash. So, and you can see this is becoming a larger headache than what I wanted. Quoted up the job, and yeah, it's just a much larger cost than what I anticipated. And doing that on top of building an engine, getting a gearbox in, doing the subframes, the brakes, the suspension, painting the engine bay, everything else that I was doing, it's another huge cost that I just can't tackle right now. So I asked for advice. I go, what can I do in the meantime to maybe prolong me being able to do it? I've taken a wire wheel and I've cleaned it up to silver metal and sprayed a little bit of rust eater, which I've since kind of wire wheeled back off. And they go, that's the best you can do. You don't have an environment where you're on salted roads or, driving through snow with salt flicking up in there and eating the rust away. So you're in the best environment that you can to preserve it until you're able to actually tackle it. So with all that being said, the plan now is drop the rear subframe back out, because I think it's only 6 bolts that are holding it in right now. Because the plan was originally to send the car off, get the rust fix, bring it back, finish the undercoat, which now you know why that's not happening. Forgot these bad boys. Always readjust the chuck. All I've got to do is get back under here and start removing the rear subframe. I will show you guys the rust again. So that's the culprit. You can see I've gone in and just wire wheeled everything back in an effort to get to the bottom. I might hit it with one more wire wheel before I start doing the rust converter on it. But this is basically what I gotta do. So the proper way to fix it would be putting the car on the car liner, like I said, and then unpicking all of the welds that go along here that hold it into the car. They remove this section all the way back to the subframe and replace it with a new one. I'm no repairer, so I don't know exactly what that job entails. I just know what they've been telling me. So like I said, what I'm gonna do is clean this up a bit more, really get into it with the wire wheel, try and get it, you know, as deep in there as I can, and then hit it with some rust converter. We'll leave it as is for now, and I'll put basically the entire rear subframe back in. So it's unfortunate, and I really do not want to leave it like this, but at this stage of the build, I just cannot afford to attack this right now, and it doesn't compromise me moving forward right now. So that was why I decided to go ahead and just treat it and move forward with it. So just know this isn't something that I want to leave in there. This is another piece. So I sat here and, you know, tried to find more in the arches, but this was the only one that I found. And I'll see if I can't get the camera in there a bit easier. So basically, the rear wheel arch is actually pretty clean, but just this like little flange piece where the plastic mounted has this hole in it. Which this actually isn't a big deal at all. That's very good considering most of the cars that have this, the rust eats holes like that all the way through here. Now you can see I've already wire wheeled most of this back. There's nothing there, so very happy with that. All right, I'm gonna work on getting this subframe out, and happy days. We'll continue to make the underside look like that. That was a lot easier than the first time, and as you can see, it's now out. So I'm gonna give all this a pretty good clean. Still got some, oh no, don't tell me. Oh no. One not zinc plated bolt. Oh man, another zinc run. So I'm gonna go ahead and start taping this all up and getting it ready for some paint. As much as it hurts to do, it has to be done. So just final little cleanup of that, and I'll hit it with some rust converter. So as you can see, let me just blast you with a little bit more light. As you can see, that's just paper. The underbody is complete. And I mean, it actually looks a little bit better, as much as I hate to say it. But there you go. That's been completely just blasted, so that shouldn't get any worse. And like I said, we'll definitely be coming back and attacking that properly along with that guy. But that is the underbody. So now I'm going to work on getting the subframe back in, and a couple of little pieces over here that I've got for the exhaust shield. Boom, there you go, subframe's back in. I'm gonna leave the car on jack stands for now, so I won't put the tires back on because I still need to put the handbrake back together. And I just want to take extra time to button up a few things that would just make it a little bit harder with the car on the ground, just in the back of the engine bay here. So car will stay on stands for a little bit longer, but undercoat's now finished up, and I'll just do a quick little sweep for you. So that's with the subframe back in, and you can see undercoat is completely done now. Pretty happy with how it turned out, even though it's not 100% because of the rust spot, but it lets me keep going forward with it. So next thing to do is fuel. I've got a pretty good little project coming up for the fuel system, so stay tuned.